Welcome to the Human Advantage podcast, where culture is created, not claimed. We've been talking about culture for years, but most companies still reduce people to check boxes that are supposed to define an entire human being. We hire for familiarity, we reward sameness, and then wonder why teams struggle. The problem isn't talent, it's the system. And this podcast is about changing that. Diversity beyond checkboxes, culture add over culture fit, and how people think is the real differentiator. Because people aren't categories, they're the advantage.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Human Advantage podcast. Got a super awesome guest today, a good friend of mine, Mark Stowitts, who is a technology leader with over 2 decades of experience helping companies make better, smarter decisions, much smarter decisions. Worked across startups, large-scale enterprises like Amazon, Microsoft, building data and analytic systems that actually work in the real world. He's also a neurodivergent leader, recently started a neurodivergent think tank, huge neurodivergent advocate, which is I think how we originally got connected, and put a couple different brains in the room and we go off for hours. So welcome, buddy. We're excited for this conversation, man.
I love you guys. I'm so happy to be here. Go. Make it happen.
Take it away. Let's do it.
Make the magic happen.
Right up to the horses.
I love it. We got 3 virgin brains in a room here, so I love that. Tell me, when did you first realize your brain worked differently? And then how did that kind of shape you entering the workforce?
I had a strange upcoming prior to the age of 12. Mother, single mom. 80% of my life before the age of 12 was being homeless. We traveled everywhere in a car, and she was a, sorry to say it, she was a grifter. She was a self-proclaimed Lithuanian gypsy. Now, I've done my 23andMe. There's no Lithuanian in my background, but it was that, and she had a neurodivergent kid, and at that time, like the whole concept of what neurodivergent is, it just didn't exist. Right. She just had a special kid, but she had to do what she did and did the traveling and did all the other stuff. The growing up part was just like strange, and it wasn't until my 30s that I got some feedback and finally went, and that's when I got clinically diagnosed. And even when I got clinically diagnosed, and it's funny because I had the conversation with my wife 2 nights ago. She's like, so how did that happen? And I'm like, because I had someone died, you're autistic. I'm like, no, I'm not. Yeah. And not to be naive, not to be stupid, but when you go back to like the 80s and the 70s, and I grew up in Texas, which, by the way, is not the best education system on the planet, and someone said I'm autistic, it's like, I'll be horribly blunt. Like, the first image is like, Down syndrome and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not autistic. And it took a lot. It took months and months. And it took having the right evaluators and the right therapists to turn around and actually help me realize that the people that I appreciate the most in the job that I had. And I was in Microsoft during the big growth period.
Yeah.
And it took me recognizing that I'm around neurodivergent people that also don't realize that they're neurodivergent, and understanding the appreciation and the damaging as well as the positive part when people say like the superpower. It's like, I know I have superpowers, but most people, especially the 1990 through thousands, you hear autistic, you think none of that. And the few that did think of superpowers, now you're offended because they want Rain Man that can drop the toothpicks and count 14,380, and now you're offended by it. And how do you rationalize that stuff in between there? Like a previous round table I was in, and they wanted to talk about superpowers, and I'm like, let's talk about Green Lantern, right? I'm a Green Lantern fan. Before the Ryan Reynolds movie messed it up and made everybody think horribly of it. But before that, here you have someone that by strength of will, by strength of imagination, can create anything that's indestructible. But kryptonite can't impact the color yellow. How insanely stupid is that? If it's yellow, sorry, it's yellow. Yeah, that's it. That to me is like the quintessential conversation around neurodivergent superpower. Is like, yeah, you have this. It could do anything except for yellow. And it's like in the corporate environments that you can do anything unless you don't understand corporate politics. And you're like, it repeats itself again and again and again, and it's infuriating.
Well, I think it's what we touched on, right? I mean, we touch on it a lot. It's a superpower in the right environment, right? But in the wrong environment, it is that kryptonite. I think that's why we talk so much about environment.
And it's so easily to be manipulated by the supervillains of the world.
Yeah.
Once they know that, you're screwed. Yeah.
But I think another good point, like, especially since you talked about, like, in the 80s, me in the 90s, like, it's also a point of ignorance, too. Growing up, being called, like, autistic, maybe that was, like, a sense of, like, coming from a good place. But as a kid, most of that stuff was coming from a bad place. And those kids turn into adults, and that ignorance kind of remains. So I think you have to educate people on what that actually means so they know what's a superpower and they know what the yellow is, right?
Yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely. I think, too, like, I'm curious how many neurodivergent people have felt that when they got diagnosed. Because I know when I got diagnosed, my immediate response was like, bullshit, I don't have ADHD. Like, I can sit still just fine. I don't sit still that well, but I told myself I could sit still just fine. And they had explained to me, like, that's not what it is. It's not that you can't sit still. It's your brain doesn't stop. Your brain doesn't stop running. You don't formulate thoughts in the same way most people do. And I was like, okay, that checks out more, right? But that was 30 years ago, and that was not the understanding back then. The understanding back then was you were the Jack Russell Terrier running circles in the room till you burned a hole in the carpet, right? And
here's your Ritalin.
Exactly.
You're hyperactive. Here's your Ritalin. Go take that, because that was like you give it to everybody.
Well, it's the quote, right? If you met one kid with autism, you met one person with autism, right? Like, it's different with everybody. It's different. Same with my ADHD. Like, we all interpret it differently. We all look at it differently. And it's interesting, man, because so many companies now are preaching about the value of different thinking and talking about it. In reality, a lot of the systems I don't think really
they should be talking specifically about cognition, but yes,
exactly,
please continue.
Totally.
Yeah,
well,
that's a great point.
In reality, like, they say they value different thinking, but the systems reward conformity, right? And so it was, hey, let's be equitable. We keep the same interview process for everyone, so it's fair for everyone. I'm like, cool, it's fair for the one subset that fits that interview process. You're pulling out the same neurotype. You wonder why you have groupthink. You wonder why you lack innovation. I think these systems reward conformity while marketing, cognitive differences, which in reality it's just another CSR initiative until you break down the layers and design those systems to truly reward unique thinking. And I don't think we've caught up to that yet, but I do think it's the trajectory we're going.
It is. You remind me growing up. I like comedy, but I never laughed. All my friends, they'd be laughing like crazy, and I'd watch someone that was like a dry, deadpan, logical thing, like Stephen Wright in the 80s. I don't know if you know who Stephen Wright was. Mm-hmm. And I'd watch that, and I would laugh so hard I would snort, Dr. Pepper through my nose. My friends would be like, "Really?" Like all the other, and like, "Really?" Yeah. And it's and like even from the Stephen Wright, Bostonian, actually originally Canadian, Bostonian dry delivery. He was the guy on the couch in the Weed movie with Chappelle's first Weed movie. Anyway, just
half baked.
Yes, half baked. He was the guy on the couch, just on a favor. But his delivery, like he talked about like in interviews, like he walked into an interview and he got his hair and he started reading a book and like the interviewer said, like, "What are you reading?" It's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm trying to learn something." He said, "But you're here for an interview." And he puts the book down and he turns on, he goes, "Let me ask you a question. If you're in a Volkswagen van driving at the speed of light and you turn on the headlights, would you see it?" And the guy goes, "I don't know." And he goes, I don't want to work for you." And he walks out. But like it just like the whole concept and the whole component is just, it makes a lot of sense. And as you were talking about, like, back in the 80s, and I actually had this conversation recently. 84 was the movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I was a teenager. And this was my first introduction to the Indian culture. And let's just say it's not a positive one through Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because you have the cult and the Bali and like, soon Kalima will rule the world, and they're taking the heart and everything else. And you think of how far the combination of the culture is now, and it's incredibly offensive. And that's the whole reason why I'm bringing it up. It's incredibly offensive to think of that, but how far removed are we from that? Well, now, take the same concept from neurodivergent, and we're there. We haven't evolved to that point yet, have we?
No, I think we're still label obsessed as a society, and we're still, we want to categorize everybody in buckets, right? You're ADHD, you're autistic, you're African American, you're Asian, you're whatever, and we pretend like that bucket defines an entire human being, when in reality, everybody inside that bucket has a different lived experience, has a different way of viewing the world, approach. And I think, as a society, we're so quick to just slap labels and categorize people and lump everybody together. And I think that is broadly what we do with neurodivergence a lot. If you're autistic, you're this. If you're ADHD, you're this. If you're dyslexic, you're this. When in reality, everyone in that neurodivergent community experiences, like, there's some overlap, sure, with ADHD and with autism, et cetera, but like in reality, like, we all experience it very differently, right? And I just, there's no one size fits all with any of it.
Did you see the study with Gen Alpha that came out a handful of months ago, where Gen Alpha, when queried, said 53% of Gen Alpha felt that they were neurodivergent, which means, I
think it was Gen Z millennials. Wasn't that the research study? It's 53% of Gen Z millennials associate with some form of neurodivergence. Yes, and it's higher. I mean,
here's the thing. It's like, the wonderful conversation with my wife, who's very logical. It's like, well, if the 53% are neurotypical is now the autistic, and great just great conversation.
But that's why we got to get ahead of these systems, right? Because I do think that incoming workforce is now becoming the majority. Like, if 53% of Gen Z millennials associate with some form of neurodivergence, even higher in Gen Alpha, your separate neurodiversity program and your separate hiring portal and your separate, you can't keep othering people who become the majority, because that's what we've been doing for the longest time with all of these programs. We're trying to program our way into diversity and other our way into inclusion, when in reality, all we're doing is creating more separation, more division, more outcasts, more people who feel like others, when in reality, the data suggests we are becoming the majority who's entering the workforce. You got to start designing systems from the foundational layer versus simply just band-aiding over with programs. That's my take.
I still want to question the survey and the wording of it, because all that can have biases and everything else. Yeah, but the point is clear, and please, Devin, continue.
Oh no, I was going to say, as long as there's like two separate groups, regardless of the groups or the amount of buckets, I think candidates or any employee will always look at the bucket that either the majority is in or the one that gets, I'm going to say, special treatment, and they're going to go to those buckets, regardless if they fill or not.
We gotta stop the buckets. We gotta get to the point, right? To where it's like, here's the goal, and how do we fulfill it?
That's exactly it.
I managed a team of product feedback leaders back at Microsoft. The best folks that we ever hired from a taxonomy perspective, one was a retired mailman who organized it. Another one was a former crew chief for a pit crew who organized and could sort quickly. Another one was a former Army officer, the division of just a supply, and the whole concept of how we organize what the structure is so different. Like, Adam, early on, I mean, you and I, like, after like a couple months, you're like, hey, by the way, on your resume, and I'm like, I'm happy to share my resume. You're like, hey, Mark, do you have like your full unfettered resume? I'm like, I do. And they're like, can I look at that? I'm like, look. And I sent it to you, and you're like, this is 46 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Are you a vampire? How old are you? But it's just kind of like you get like a neurodivergent. You're a four-dimensional system thinker. You just want to solve stuff.
Yep, 100%.
Like, I mean, there was like a chief technical officer role recently with a legal company, and they're like, well, and I sat through the interview. Mainly, I provided feedback. It wasn't a job that I wanted, but the CEO was like, well, let me explain process serving. And I'm like, well, I was a process server for a year and a half in my 20s. They're like, well, not on your resume. I'm like, yeah, my resume is only 4 pages long. I'm sorry. If you wanted a full one, I could give you the 46 pages. But it's kind of like that. Neurodivergent talent, there's nothing within a resume that if you were to go redesign a separate resume and application system off of special interests, because a neurodivergent, you give them a special interest, it could be freaking, I mean, I could be working in BI, but I could have a special interest in entomology. And if you ever needed a BI expert that knows about bugs, that would show up. No system on the planet is organized for that whatsoever.
Nope.
Whatsoever. And I mean, you guys, Devin, I helped you adopt your kitties.
I did.
I mean, my special interest is cat rescue and cat adoptions. How often does that come up? But if, I don't know, Chewy were to turn around and go, we need an AI expert, blah, blah, blah. But it'd be ideal if they had, it's never going to show up on my resume unless I custom redesign it everything else.
I think reality is, though, that's with neurotypical and neurodivergent people, right? Like, we can't categorize people to a piece of paper, and that's the way these antiquated systems are, is it's, here's what you are on a piece of paper, here's what you are in this, you label into this checkbox, you label onto this piece of paper. And also, like, let's be honest, the resume tells what you've done in a previous environment. It doesn't tell you what you can do in someone else's environment. And that's to your point, right? Like, well, it's never going to show you what you can do to a cat rescue and enabling all the tech behind that, et cetera. Like, because it tells you what you've done in one specific environment, not what you can do in the given environment you're about to enter.
Yeah, and you're not going to get the simulations of, hey, there's a car that just flipped in front of you and it's burning. Are you the person that runs into the flame to pull them out? Are you the person that calls? Are you the person that stands back and video records? It's just like so many factors. Devin?
Yeah. But I think a good point, Mark, is that you named a technical skill, and then you said an interest or a thought process. And I think a lot of companies, they don't understand their thought process. They don't understand their culture. So how are we going to hire for that? Like, I can't say, like, we need somebody who's communicative. Yeah, everybody does that. You have to.
Let's put our hat. Let's put our hat on as a company. They need to build a, I don't know, e-commerce platform, right? And like, we need to add some people. And they do a little bit of research, cursory. It's like, okay, we need a front-end person, we need a back-end person, we need this. They create the roles from that. They miss the point of saying, just bluntly, we need an e-commerce platform. If they're to just say, here's what we're trying to accomplish, we're looking for people to lead us in that direction, because they may not need the traditional formation of, we need a leader, we need the front-end leader, the back-end leader, we need the UX leader, okay, now we need to put the headcount under that. None of that.
That's why we're still running paper-to-paper systems, right? I mean, that's exactly what you get when you run a paper-to-paper, a resume to a job description. Control-F, that's what 90% of recruiters do. Control-F, keyword match, and say, oh, they must be it, right? Like, that's exactly why we developed the system we have, which you know about. But it's, I mean, that's the whole problem with these old systems is you can't take a piece of paper to a piece of paper and say, yep, perfect fit. Like, it's not going to work.
It's exactly why what we're starting to do as Spectrum Think Tank is working.
Yeah.
It's exactly why. I mean, I'll tell Basie right now. I'm technically a fractional CTO for 10 companies right now.
Yep.
Now, I can't list it on my resume because nobody wants to look at someone who's like, oh, they're already busy. They're a fractional CTO for 10 companies. I just try to help where I can. Spectrum think tank kind of borrows where it's like, don't turn around and say we need a role to do this. Because, I mean, especially in the last year and a half, you got like founders. Someone wrote a chat prompt and you're like, this is the best chat prompt ever. I'm going to make $1 billion. I just need a CTO who's going to build it end to end, sell it, market it. And by the way, they only get like 10% of the equity because, the founder had the brilliant idea. And they aren't out there. They don't exist. And strangely, we've actually helped a handful of companies like that get through that. The concept is if you need a particular skill set, like someone would come to Spectrum Think Tank and go, we're trying to satisfy this. And we go, yes, we got 70 people. We have that skill set. But we're never going to say it's this person because it's never that person.
You guys are building solutions. You're not doing a staff log, right?
That's it. It's just a combination of stuff. And it's strange because I did research on China over the last 5 years. I actually did global research. China has really perfected the gig economy. But the gig economy, the success is community.
Yeah.
It's not skill set, it's community. And what I love about you guys is that you're all about community as well as everything else.
100%.
So if someone turns on and goes, hey, I need a hand here. And I looked at some of the original, like some of the Chinese studies, and you look at some of the gig economy stuff, it's like, okay, this person is this. No one turns to me and go like, what's your profession? They don't go, I'm a plumber. They go, what projects are you working on right now? And without a doubt, 40% may be plumbing because it's all the need there is. But it's also, hey, I'm going from this province to this province, so I'm transporting this. Oh, by the way, I'm also manufacturing this. Oh, I'm also dropping off these supplies for this. Oh, I'm also doing this other stuff. That's kind of how we're leading. And if that's a leading indicator for where we're at right now, we're going to be a gig economy. Everybody's going to be in a gig economy eventually.
Eventually, I think, though, realistically, we're still got to work within the systems we're working in. And there's still going to be a ton of companies hiring one-off talent, hiring a developer for this, or hiring one product manager for this.
There's zero doubt that there is the strongest appetite, and maybe because it's ingrained in us, but I still have the appetite to turn around and go, I want to know where my 40 hours are. I want someone to give me the parking pass, show me the parking lot, give me the badge to walk in, show me where I'm going to sit, say exactly what's going to be deposited into my banking account every 2 weeks, what my retirement plan is, and by the way, here are your health benefits. And if I had all of that, I would not be as spastic crazy as you guys know that I am. And I would probably step back and go, and I would still have enough drive to do some of the other things, but I would still be, for the most part.
But there's pros and cons to both, right? But I think let's look at traditional systems where companies or what are some subtle ways companies are filtering out great neurodivergent talent without realizing it. Thinking about traditional systems,
job descriptions, skills. By the way, like back in the day when Python first landed on the scene, I was managing deep business intelligence teams, and I had a recruiter turn to me and go, I can't find anyone with Python skills. I'm like, stop listing Python skills. You find me someone with like 7 to 10 years of SQL, they're going to learn Python in a month.
Yep.
Just stop that.
Even that, man, like SQL's the tool. Python is the tool. That's not the skill. The skill is how you utilize that tool to solve business out. So this skills-based
skill is programming.
Exactly.
But nobody lists that.
Exactly.
And that's driving me insane. The creator of Fast API 2.5-3 months ago gave a post and he's like, I can't apply for this job. And it's funny because the job said Fast API, you need 3 years experience. He goes, even I can't apply for it because I didn't create Fast API until 18 months ago. And it's just like you're like mind blown. But it's just if you have the mental approach for something, that's enough.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to hire an Access person and it had SQL experience, I'd be there. If I wanted to hire a Python person, I don't need Python listed. You have that. It's just exactly that. Nobody groups them together, and that's a natural challenge with everything that we do in this hiring environment.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think you brought up a really good point, because in that it said like 3 years of Fast API. Well, that's them defining how good you are at a skill or a tool off of length, not based off a project, not based off of what's similar to the problem that they're solving.
And even 3 years doesn't mention success. Like you could be.
Yeah.
It's like if you had a dead body in a corner and every day you went and poked it, doesn't make you a autopsy expert.
Exactly.
But it's kind of like the time doesn't matter. And there's a very strong time differential, especially right now with AI. Boeing recently talked to me, and they're like, "Hey, we want to talk to you about becoming like our principal AI, blah blah blah." And I did the panel thing, and I showed them my AI setup, and they're like, "Oh my god, yes, that's exactly what we want." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, do you want to hire me? Do you want to hire my AI that I built, which, by the way, I spent, hundreds, if not thousands of hours on, or do you want to hire a combination?" "Oh, we want the combination." And I'm like, okay, curious. So you're going to let me take my laptop into Boeing, plug it in, and do this? And like, well, no, we have government contracts and all the other stuff. I'm like, oh, but you wanted to hire me plus what I built out, my Jarvis, my personal assistant.
Yeah.
Everything as an extension of me. And you're like, so what do you want me to do? It's like, well, we have our own specific version of, and I can't say which one.
Yeah.
But our own specific version locked down. We want you to come in and rebuild it. And I'm like, but I can only rebuild it off of everything I've learned.
Right.
So basically, is that my IP or is that yours? Is like, oh no, it's 1,000% ours. And I'm like,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And it's just like we want this, and I'm like, how's the world gonna work? And I mean, we're gonna go through the next 6 months, and there's gonna be some back and forth. There might be some litigation, but that stuff has to be sorted out.
Yeah,
and
there's
a handful of the other things.
There's a whole bunch with it. I know when we get 3 neurodivergent brains in the room, someone's got to keep track of time, so I've got my timer on. That's the way it works.
And we haven't once talked about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm proud of us.
I'm
so proud. I'm so proud.
We just did.
Yep.
Put that one behind the paywall. Let's do a paywall.
Right?
I'm there.
Exactly.
What do we have to roll to get past the paywall?
Yeah, right. It's good. This is the hardest part of the podcast for neurodivergent people, including myself. We're going to do a little lightning round with Mark. One word to describe each one of these things, right? One word, one sentence. One word, one sentence. So
you told me I can't curse. Crap is.
Oh, you can't. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you you can. I'm fine.
Okay, let's go.
I'm fine with it. Okay, one word that describes how you think.
It can't be one word. It's like 4-dimensional. It's 4-dimensional.
4-dimensional. That's a good one. That's a good one. Something in tech. Yeah. Something in tech that is overrated right now.
AI. Sorry, AI evaluation, AI application, AI whatever.
Yep.
The only combination that makes sense is practical AI application. If you put those 3 together, I'm there, but I'm going to beat the living crap out of you if you freaking lie to me.
Yep. Okay, so something that's underrated when building great teams.
Empowerment.
I like that one. That's a good one.
Good one.
Okay. Here's one that I think we could all go off on for hours, but we're going to go one assumption about neurodiversity that you wish people would drop.
It's double. It's a positive and a negative. It is the Rain Man counting the thing but it's also we can't communicate, we can communicate in one way, but we can't communicate another way. The whole thing is a spectrum. And it's like my wife brought it up the right way the other night. She goes, it's a spectrum, so everybody's on it. I'm like, yes, finally someone gets it. It's a spectrum.
Well, that's the term.
Everybody's on it. That's
the original term neurodiversity is supposed to be akin to biodiversity, where we all process the world differently. Everybody looks at life through a different lens. Everybody sees the world differently. Like that, to me, that's how you build systems, right? You take that into account of the fact that we're all unique. We all have different lived experiences. We all process the world differently. That's the beauty of neurodiversity, in my opinion.
Effing hallelujah.
Yeah. So we touched on this about the struggle with resumes, especially with neurodivergent people. And I think everybody really struggles with putting, kind of their life work on a piece of paper, right? One thing about our company, about what we do, is kind of the story behind the resume. What is one thing that is essential to who you are and how you show up in the workforce that would never show up on your resume?
Empathy for the holistic structure. It is
interesting.
Is looking at the fact that there may be 5 departments, and you get, especially a neurodivergent brain, they're sensitive to friction, and they may look at it's like, hey, this department isn't as, respected or included in the decision. They see the fact that in order for a decision to be made, it needs all 5 departments. They are more in tune to where friction isn't occurring. And when it occurs too easily, they are more questioning of, that's just everybody just signing off and buying off.
Yeah.
It isn't natural. If you wanted to create a insanely complex structure and you were to turn around and go, I need all of these people to be in sync, I would turn around and go, get a strong neurodivergent person who sees patterns more than anything else to be the advisor to the leadership of what is triggering and what isn't. Because whatever flyers you put out, whatever potlucks, whatever you do, you have that person and you have them as your listening system, and they look across that and be like, by the way, Joan in HR isn't on board, or whatever.
Well, I get it, man. Yeah,
but it's like the key thing that's missing. It is pattern matching.
Yeah, and I think people don't associate that with the ability to read people, but a lot of neurodivergent, especially I know on the ADHD side, if we're broad generalizing, you have that understanding to read emotions and read how people are. It drives my wife nuts because I'll be like, why are you upset? I'm not upset. Babe, I know you're upset. Okay, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are. But okay, we could pretend you're not. But we know you are. But it's totally.
But even the way you looked at it is different, because most people think of it as a structural standpoint. You took an empathy-driven approach to solving a physical problem.
Yeah.
Right. So even that's a different way of thinking of solving the problem itself.
There was a weird time in one organization at Microsoft where they said, Mark, we got the worst task on the planet. You're one of our directors. We need you to fix all the process adherence stuff. And getting everybody to follow processes, it's not sexy, it's not attractive. It's like the last thing on everybody's mind. It's data hygiene, it's renaming your files. It's like the worst thing on the planet. And they're like, sorry, Mark, would you mind tackling? I'm like, yeah, no problem. And I came up with the snake killing. Like, I labeled each of the 7, data hygiene as a snake. And I created wanted posters and put them up on the wall. And we give out little rubber snakes that people could collect and they could trade them in for things. And I had the senior leader once a month walk through the aisles with a shillelagh. I made it as fun as I possibly could. And it went great for about 2.5 months. And then 2 people within our 390 people organization, it turns out they combined raised and bred snakes. And they were very offended by the snake killing. And I had like 2 days off, and I came in, and HR is like, well, snake killing's like a very common, concept as far as terminology in a corporate environment and blah blah blah, and everybody's like, and we can quash this with them. I'm like, no, we need to rename it. And they're like, do you want to meet with the 2 people that were offended by it? I'm like, I actually do,
right?
But I wanted to do because I wanted to apologize for my insensitivity. I wanted to acknowledge that I didn't have enough foresight to have any understanding of any potential offense.
Yeah.
And we eventually renamed it to snake wrangling, snake collecting, and the other stuff. Yeah. But it was that, and like corporate HR is like, well, we're covered here. You can just continue on. I'm like, no, it's a silly thing. Nobody cares.
That's the important thing, Mark, and I think that's a good thing to end on. Is if we had more empathy-driven leaders like that, I think a lot of people would be a lot happier in the workplace, and there'd be a lot more understanding. I think it's too easy for us to say, well, it's only one person, it's only 2 people, it's only this. Well, everybody makes an impact, right? And everybody has to show up to work, and everybody has to feel comfortable coming into work and being themselves. So I think it's a great lesson to end on, man.
Inclusion.
Real inclusion, not the buzzword, but real inclusion, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy. Well, listen, we know we'll do this again with you. We know you'll be a repeat guest on here because
I love and adore the crap out of both of you.
Boy, we feel the same, buddy.
Thank you. Right there with you.
You've personally helped me. I've sent you people. You have helped every single person I've helped with. You have jumped in when I've turned around and go, hey, this is really inconvenient. It's really difficult. But I need this perspective, and you'd be like, I'll reorganize things to be there for you. Look,
I love it, man.
You're making a difference in the world. Whatever I can do to support you, hopefully whatever anybody else in the world can turn around, you're making a difference in this world in a way. You're not capitalistic, you're not greedy, you're not blah blah blah. Part of my language, you give a fuck.
Yeah.
You are good. You are good humans. You're good humans. To me, that's the top of the bar. Keep it up. Whatever I can do, count on me. I'm always there. I'm there.
It's mutual, man, and it takes a community of us to make this impact. It's not going to be one of us. It's not going to be just LinkTech. It's going to be all of us, right? I mean, it takes a community to normalize this thing together and make change.
Absolutely. We're only going to do it if we all come together.
Absolutely.
Keep doing you. I love you guys. You're amazing.
Love you too, buddy.
We'll end on the emotional hug. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Good.